Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality, and today I am going to be showing you how to make a binder ring junk journal. I have made these lots of times before and I had a request for a tutorial and I'm just now getting around to it. For spring this year, I am making two of these fuzzy duckling little golden book journals. I was fortunate to have found two of these same book from different locations, but it is from 1978, I believe, or 1971. It's a reprint from 1940. Super cute, and they both have like just this vintage charm to them, as we call it in the junk journaling world, vintage charm. But it is really cute for spring. Any animal lover, it could be an Easter gift, but it's not an Easter book at all. It's just about this cute little fuzzy duckling. And so I made this one. I haven't totally filled it with everything yet, but I wanted to show you how you can easily make one. It's so easy and they just turn out so cute and really upcycles the little golden books. So yeah, it's really cute. I haven't even counted the pages, but it's about an inch thick, or an inch and a quarter thick maybe. I used the 1.25" binder rings on it. And I just gathered bunches of, I had like one duck scrapbook paper and then just yellow and this teal color. I wanted to pull out the teal blue, or it's blue I guess, kind of a turquoisey blue. Yeah, I added this flower here because there was a stain from something on there. So this felt flower and a button. Added rickrack here. There is yellow fabric that I covered on the back, and I have this duck fabric. I think it's from Ofray. It's like ducks, little rubber duckies, really cute. So that ribbon, I'm sorry, I said fabric, but that is, I glued that into the cover. So let's go ahead and get started on how to make one of these. So first thing you will need is your book, and so I have this one here. And what you need to do with this is you're going to loosen up and take apart. I just kind of loosened this on both ends, and you can kind of pull it apart. They're put together with staples, so you can just kind of pry it apart like that. I do the front and then go in on the back. And this just comes, we'll just pull apart here. I don't use this part, so if you were wanting to keep that part you can, but I never use that part. I just pull it off. And this one is actually coming apart pretty easily. Sometimes it's a little bit harder with the staples to get it apart, but it's coming out. The staples came out pretty easily. So you have that part. If you didn't know, little golden books are in 2 signatures, which means it's just how the construction of how the book is together. So it's this section, and you're gonna have to find the middle here. It still has a little bit of glue. And this one is oddly put together. Let's see. This is the middle here. And it's stuck here. Just have to pull it apart here. We're actually going to be trimming that off anyway, so, but here are the 2 signatures. So it's just how they print it. So this first signature, it has the first page and this middle page. So I don't know if that's understandable, but like these are all folded together, and when they printed them, they had to print this whole page in one piece, and they fold them together, and then this was laid on top of this section. So if I'm making a regular junk journal, I would keep all of these pages together like they are and just lay however I'm going to lay my pages in, but I would keep this connected so you have them already connected like this. But for the binder ring junk journal, you're going to cut them all apart, but you want them all to be in the right order, of course. So we have that ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and use my trimmer and trim this off, or you could use like a razor. Let's see, first I'm going to bend the staples down so it'll be easier to trim here. Just going to trim this off. Turn it over because it's not going to go all the way through on one side. So there. Or you could use like a straight edge and like a straight edge and a cutting knife, or you know what I mean, razor blade. So I did that on the front, and then go ahead and do that on the back. And I'm just lining up where that natural little divot is in the book. And then if you need to trim anything else off, you can just take a pair of scissors and get any stragglers off. So it's going to be covered up, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but that at least it's pretty straight there. So now what you can do is cut your pages. I'm going to just cut one signature at a time, but I am making all of my pages the same width and height of the cover. So they're at about 6 inches by 8, so that's what I'm going to cut all of my papers down to. And then if you have pages that you want to fold out just to make them wider, in case there's like an image on there that you don't want to cut off at 6 inches, or if you want to fold a page up to make a pocket, that is just something you can do as you go along and as you cut your pages. With the book pages themselves, I'm just going to cut them off at 6 inches. And this book is pretty good about the wording doesn't go too far over on the side, so I may even trim a little bit off on this side just to make sure I don't trim off some words on that side. So the wording doesn't go all the way to the edge on either side, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to trim off maybe just a little 1/4 inch off that side, and then line it up at 6 inches and cut the rest of the way off, which is about the amount that was underneath on the spine. So now just make sure you keep these all in order. So I'll just turn that over that way. Trim a tiny bit off this edge. And then 6 here. So these are done and ready. The next thing you'll want to do is gather some pages. We'll start with the pages, and then I'll go into finishing the cover in a little bit. So what you want to do is gather any book pages, tea stained papers, coffee stained papers, ledger paper, any kind of your junk papers that you want to use, old book pages, book or lunch sacks here. I have a napkin. I have some old grid paper. I have some yellow notebook paper. Here's the book pages that you saw on the other. I have these music sheets, some coffee stained papers, more book pages from different duck books. This page here. I have this vintage duck wrapping paper, and then I have different kinds of scrapbook paper. I have this duck print here, some polka dot. I have a plaid that has the green and the yellow in it, as well as some of the other colors, the red and orange. So it kind of all goes along with the cover. I have that green. So now what you want to do is start going through your papers and all your items and make them the size of your cover, which I said mine was 6 by 8. So I've started already going through my papers, and I'll just show you some of the book pages. I cut them down, and depending on your book page and what image you want, you could leave it a little bit wider so you could fold it, do have it be a fold out. These pages obviously are already small enough. My napkin, I just had to trim a little bit off the edge. I have the bag here. I folded it in half, and it will just be a little pocket on one side, and then the other side you can add either a little pocket here or a picture or whatever. Here are my tea stain papers. They're cut down to 6 by 8. My music sheet papers I cut to 6 by 8, and I wanted, since only 2 of the sides had the ducks on them, I'm going to put them together like this and stitch around it and just make that one page. My notebook papers are cut down, as well as these grid sheets, ledger paper. These are all pretty simple 6 by 8 cuts. So for this page, it was 8.5 by 11. I trimmed off the 1/2 inch to make it 8 inches tall, and then I just folded in one side at 6, to where it makes it 6 inches wide, and then this one will be a piece that will fold out. On the grid paper, I did the same, cut those 2 down, but I left one so that I could fold it at the bottom up to the 8 inches. Just line up your edge on the 8 inches here, and then you can just fold it and make a little pocket at the bottom, and that makes it an 8 inch tall paper. And then I'll just go in and stitch along the sides to make a pocket and alter this a little bit. Now on these, I'm going to cut these down, and I think I'm going to leave them a little bit wider so I can fold it, and I hadn't decided. Let me see here. I know this one I definitely want to leave because the duck is so far over on that side, and then there's ducks on that side. So I'm just going to trim it to 8 inches. And I'll start on this side. You just have to figure out which way so you're not cutting off something at the bottom. So I cut a little bit off there, and then I'll line it up at the 8 inch up here and trim off a little bit at the top. So now what I can do is, I'll probably fold it this way. Fold that down so it's 6 inches wide, And then when you flip through the page, you'll be able to open it up and see the whole book page. So that one's like that. I think this one I can cut down a little bit. Let's see. I'm gonna trim this here, and then I think I'm actually gonna make this, since there isn't a duck on this side, I'm gonna make this a pocket. So I'm going to cut this. I'm not worried about the frog. I'm just gonna make it a little bit skinnier than, you know, I'm actually just gonna cut the frog off so I can use that for something else and just make this a pocket or a tag. I'll use this piece on a page as a pocket. So I went ahead and cut the rest of my papers off camera, and so now we'll get started with making the cover. Take the back cover and you'll want to place it on some fabric and cut 1 inch all the way around, and then cut your corners so that when we glue it, the corners will be nice and tidy there. I'm taking my tacky glue and I'm putting glue all over the back. I did paint this white with some acrylic paint just because you could see the writing on the back through the fabric. Now just place that down right in the center, turn it over, and then smooth out all the bumps. If you have to add some more glue, you can, just so that the bumps, they won't be poking up. Just kind of tug and do that. Then you need to start by putting some glue along the bottom, poke in one corner, then the edge, and then do the other corner. Add some more on the right there. Do the same thing all the way around. And I like to smooth the glue out so there aren't any bumps or I have any glue seeping through the fabric. And then put the glue on the other 2 sides, smooth it out, pull the corner in there, and then the edges. Just make sure everything is down and flat. If you have to trim along the corners, you can, just so it's nice and flat. And add glue where you need. Now at this point I'm going to add in my ties. So I cut 2 pieces of the duck ribbon. I put some glue on one side right in the center, and then I was lining up there to put it on the front cover. Now I did already add some fabric to the front cover there. Now I'm taking my patterned paper and I'm lining it up to see where I need to cut it off. And I'm going to do that for both sides, the front and the back. And then just go ahead and trim it down. I covered the back inside cover completely, and then the front I just cut a piece that would cover the inside but lined it right up against that fabric that I went in from the front. Now just take your glue and put it all over the back of that paper, and this is a thin paper, so I did spread my glue out just so it didn't have any lumps and bumps. And then I did put these all under some heavy books just to make sure it didn't wrinkle, and it was completely flat after that. And then I did the same on this piece. And I apologize, I thought I had filmed myself putting the fabric strip on that front cover, but it was basically just 1 inch on the front, or like a 1/2 inch on the front of the cover, and then I folded the rest of the fabric in, and you'll see that here in a bit. I'm taking some rickrack and I'm going to add some glue at the seam there and put my rickrack down. Make sure that it is nice and straight all along, and then trim it off at the bottom. And then I'm going to let that dry a tad, then turn it over again, and then add my rickrack there at the front. And now you can see where the fabric was folded over a ½ of an inch, and then I think it was about 2 inches on the inside of the cover. I just like adding trim on this piece so it's just not a plain seam there or like a plain edge of the fabric. It just kind of covers it up and makes it a little bit neater. Now I'm adding a felt flower on here just to make it the same as the other one that I made. The other book that I made had a little stain on the front, so I just added that. So now I'm going through my papers and I'm trying to decide what I want to have pockets. And so on this one, I made a pocket on the front with 2 different papers. Not all of them will have pockets, but I'll just kind of go through and add fabric to it. And I'm also going through and putting them in the order that I want them to be. Usually on my journals, I like to do like maybe 4 or 5 trims along the edges that kind of poke out on the side of the book. I just love that look. And on this, I'm going to add some paper as a pocket, also on this bag. And then on the other side of the bag, I was going to add a little duck onto that pattern paper. On this page, I'm taking some vintage chenille fabric and I'm going to make a little fabric flap so that will all be stitched down. You can glue all of these things together. You can glue your pockets, your trims, all of that. But I really love the look of the sewing machine, and it's actually quicker for me because then I don't have to wait for the glue to dry before stacking my papers up. On this one, I'm adding a vintage milk cap, and I just use my sewing machine on that to stitch it down. There's that little ducky, but I found another piece that I wanted to use on that page. But I'm not sure, I think maybe I moved that to another page. I don't know. I'm going to add some lace to this pocket at the top. And a little tab on the side there. That's when I use my scraps. So just hang on to your scraps till the very end of your journal making, because a lot of times with my paper scraps, I'll just take and make little tuck spots just by sewing the pieces together or gluing them together. Really, I don't really have a rhyme or reason of how I put my pages together. I just kind of stagger them. I'll put one of the book pages and then like a tea stained paper, another vintage book page, and then scrapbook paper, and then just go through that cycle. But I do like to have the papers varied in like color and texture and also in size. And that is all my pages. I also found these cute cards. These were just at the Dollar Tree, but I thought it was perfect. So I'm going to add those in. I kind of change them up. I separated it out. I put the envelope in there in a separate spot and then the card in there. And what I did was I covered the back of the card so it didn't have the writing. I think it said Hallmark or something like that. I'm going to take all my pages and items over to the sewing machine and sew them up, and then we will be back and continue on. So now we need to start punching the holes. So I punched my holes about 2 inches from the ends, and I try to do it in between the little zigzag part. And then you just want to line up your papers and start punching your holes. And you can put one paper down on top, use a pencil and mark the next set just like here. And you really have to be careful. I do end up getting a few of the pages off a little bit. I'm not quite sure how, but I did. But that's okay because you can either just slice the edge off, or you can cover up the holes with washi tape or something like that, or with embellishments. Usually I can stack like 2 or 3 papers together and punch the holes. But if you try to do too many, it just gets off and then it's not lined up right and your book doesn't turn right. So just take your time if you have to, and then everything will just line up and it will look really cute. I'm using the crocodile. If you don't have one of those, with the crocodile you can adjust how far you go in on the page. There's like a little stopper in there. So I think I have it like at a 1/2 of an inch, so it goes in, and that way it makes it the same on every hole. And the crocodile you can punch through just about anything. It's really easy. So if you don't have one of those, I'll link it down below for you. And now here's the card. I wasn't sure if I wanted to just keep the card in the envelope, but then you would punch it and you wouldn't be able to look at the card. And then I thought maybe I could glue it on the back, but then I just decided to keep them separate and I covered the back. Next, you want to take your binder rings and lay them out flat and open them up and start with your front cover and just put your pages over onto the binder ring. And I apologize, my lighting is really wonky in this video. It's just sometimes I don't know, it was just a little funny. It's bright and then it's dark and it's bright and then it's dark. So just continue through putting your pages down. And the beauty of this style of book is that if you think that a page needs to be in a different spot, you can just open up the binder ring and move the pages, take the pages out, open them up, and yeah. And I do that later on, kind of move things around. And now bring in a bunch of trims and laces and yarns and things and just start tying them on the binder rings. I cut them probably, I'd say 4 or 5 inches. You just want to be able to tie them 2 times, a double knot. And I like to have thin items, laces, thin ribbons, fat ribbons, yarns, laces, trims, just different things on there. And probably around 6 different items on each binder ring. It's just whatever you want. If you want it really full, you can. You could tie longer pieces and just have them dangle off the top. I've seen that before. Or somebody just makes a tassel and ties it, or just a big giant bow, whatever you want. As I finish up tying these, I just want to say if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and subscribe. And hopefully you will have a chance to make one of these. If you're interested in this, I'm also going to be having mine up in my Etsy shop. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality. Bye. God bless.